And welcome back to part 30, where I'm gonna rip my hair out on mini games of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Over here in Wool Market, Andrea is for some reason taking an interest in his physical fitness, which I guess makes sense considering his profession. But it leads to another round of basically the squats mini game, but instead of it being squats, it's pull-ups, and you use Tifa instead. And it is, I don't know what happens with me when I do it, but it is way harder for me than the squats. Like the squats you do without much of a thought. You just kind of do it and it's over. The pull-ups with Tifa, I make mistakes all the damn time and fall off the thing. Like, you're actually going to see cuts later in this video, because obviously I do all the difficulties again, like I did with the squats. But I just can't get the knack of it. I get into like a good rhythm, and then right near the end, on the last 10 seconds, I mess up, drop, and the opponent just ends up taking it like by like a sliver at the end. Especially on the final. When you go for like the expert or pro, whatever the last one's called. You go for that, and it just kicks your ass. But anyway, hello Andrea. I'm going to challenge you to do pull-ups. And Tifa is going to do it, so we get to hear that amazing music again. It's the same rule, it's just the buttons that you press is a different order. Additionally, the time limit is going to be shorter. Not because it's trying to get a move on or anything like that, but because you do 2 rounds. And in the second round, it flips the controls. You'll see what I mean as we go. Like from here, it's triangle, X, circle, square. But in later on, I think it will be circle, X, triangle, square. Like it will flip. And just like before, oh look, there I already go. I just I do not have any ability to maintain a rhythm in this for some stupid reason. I just can't do it. I always end up messing it up. Even though it's the exact same minigame, it's just the buttons you press is different. It just for some reason is too much for me. I just can't keep up with it. And you're going to see, I'm going to stagger and stop. And there was an effort that I made where I lost what button I was supposed to press next outright. Also, it's X square circle triangle, so it flips it vertically, not horizontally. But there was a point where it's like I just forgot that I think it was like triangle I had to press next, and I just forgot. And then by the time I remembered, I went to press it. It was too late. Tifa dropped, and it's like thankfully I win this on the first attempt, even though I fall again. But on the 2 harder difficulties coming up, both of them I fail at least once. Thankfully, the next time I only fail it the once. But the final, the pro difficulty, I messed it up like 3 times, and it was in the exact same manner. So you're gonna see my first attempt on both of them, and then the end of my victory attempt, just to help make the video keep a move on.
I won.
Yeah, I can't believe I won either, Tifa, because I really didn't deserve it. How many mistakes I made. But you see how kind of close it was. It was like a 1 or 2 point difference. And that's on the easiest difficulty. Yeah, if I hadn't messed up, it would be a wider gap. But it is harder even with you not making mistakes. You do have to be kind of tight. If you just about hit the right timing each time, you'll be going too slow. You do need to kind of get into a rhythm and carry it on. Oh, bye, Andrea. That's also the last time you see Andrea in this game, by the way. So, bye, Andrea. Thanks for one of the most entertaining pieces of content in this game. But similar to before, you now go over and talk to these men, and you can challenge them to more pull-up training. So now we get to do amateur, which I mess up once, and then we'll do pro, which I mess up like 5 times. I honestly can't remember how many times I messed up. It wasn't that many. I think it was like 2 or 3 mistakes I made before I finally got my victory run. But you can already see, like every time you see Tifa grind to a complete halt, that's me not having the rhythm and pressing it too late. And every time you press things too late, it creates more exhaustion, so the character's more likely to fall when you linger on the next one. So Tifa's in the danger zone. Oh, there she goes. That was me forgetting the button. That was me entirely forgetting what button to press next. So then I went into the second round 2 under. And I was like, oh, okay, so I need to hit this perfect to even stand a chance of winning. Okay, let's do this. I hope I don't make a single mistake.
Your form's looking good.
9, 10, 11. Smash that square. I think I pressed too quick, so I panic. I was just like, he's taking off. Oh, there he goes. I'm like, okay, this is my chance. I just need to catch up and win him. I just need to not fight. Oh, I pressed square too early. Well, there goes that. There goes any effort of me winning that one. I could have snagged it at the last second. But he said I cut to my victory attempt, and it was because both of us dropped at the same time, so I knew I was comfortable with my win, and that was it. Come on. But yeah, even then, like, I suck at the pull-ups version for some reason. I can't explain why. I just really suck at the pull-up version. There is a trophy up for grabs for doing it, so you kind of need to do the pro version if you want the platinum. Because I'm pretty sure there was.
Okay, let's have
I'm pretty sure it wasn't just for the squats that you had to do the pro. I'm sure there was a pull-up variant, but here we go again. And like I said, this took me like 3 or 4 attempts. So this is my first attempt. And you're going to watch Jules. Watch how much Jules kind of runs away with it to get... Oh, I say that as he falls over. But once he gets a rhythm, watch how he maintains that rhythm. Because you're going to see, I'm going to get a decent-ish rhythm myself. And he's going to fucking catch up to me because he doesn't miss any of the timings. Whilst me, you can see there's a little like jolt between each movement from Tifa because I'm slightly behind on each action. But look, he's not jolting at all. He's doing it smooth as fuck. So I'm going as fast as I can without trying to mess it up. And he's gaining on me. Look, he's 4 away. 3 away. And this one, I'm like, oh god, like, you do need to hit it smooth. So it puts the panic in, because it's like, you have to hit it smooth, otherwise you're losing it. So then you end up trying to hit it as soon as you can get away with, so you press it too early and drop. And then, of course, you have to worry about the exhaustion thing as well. But look at the spacing between us already. Like, he's picking up. We started at the same time. He's picking up quicker than I am. He's catching up. He's basically caught up. He's caught up. He's taken the lead. That's what I mean. Like, you end up having to go at like a record pace just to try and catch him. And then I fucking drop, and I was like, okay, it's over. There's no way I'm going to get 3, easily more, in 5 seconds to win. If I hadn't dropped it there, I would have got it, but oh well. Later on, I failed a lot of times, but someone managed to squeeze out 48, and Jules kept dropping, which just ended up saving my life. But that was luck. That was luck that for some reason the AI kept on making Jules drop. Maybe it took pity on me, but I got it done. On my blind playthrough, I was at Jules for like a good half an hour trying to beat that son of a bitch.
What am I gonna
Way over back in, I think it's Sector 5, near Aerith's house, that doctor that we very, very briefly spoke to when we first walked through will also have a side quest for you where he wants you to retrieve 3 specific items. We actually already have 2 of them. The Moogle shop sold the first piece we needed. The second piece is in the church, which we visited earlier when we spoke to Kyrie. The third and final piece is the only piece we can't get right this very instant, that we have to come back to later on. But that's honestly fine. So we get the doctor's list so you can find out exactly what it is, and he will tell you about, oh, there's a Moogle, there's a Behemoth in a lab, which we'll be going for later in this video, and then the last one is that he talks about the church. And if you come over here, there's yet another side quest as well. Well, I say this is continuing on from the Koneo's men heading to Aerith's house quest, so we're going to go do that now to knock it out, since, you know, we're right here. There's no point going away again just to come back. But it's where you fought Rude, in this little space. And you might already be able to see the threat of this side quest, the actual threat. It's not these hooligans at all.
Wait. You?
Oh god. Then I saw that thing in the background, like my heart sank. I was like, oh no, they're gonna make me fight that thing. And they go, yeah, let them loose. And they're like, yeah, let what loose? Oh god, it's a Tonberry. Oh god, it's a Tonberry. Ah! Like, I think any Final Fantasy fan, anyone who's ever played the series, the moment the Tonberry went on screen, they went, oh god, get it the fuck away from me. The way the Tonberry works, this infamous little thing only has instant kill attacks. If you are close, it will use Chef's Knife, and it will do over 10,000 damage to you. So it will kill you. If it tries to set up a Scourge, it's trying to hold someone in place. It's an unavoidable attack. You have to get a very lucky dodge to avoid it. Once you're trapped, he will slowly approach you to get off that Chef's Knife. If no one is near him for a long time, he will use Death, as in the spell, on you. So you better have immunity to the spell to stand a chance. To win against it in the VII Remake, you need to try and figure out how to stagger it. There it is, there's Death, reworded as Doom and Gloom. It's literally the death spell, there's nothing else to it. The same way that Tantrum is literally Chef's Knife. But the way to build up the stagger on it is that it has to fail in one of its instant kills. It has to use an instant kill and it fail. Whether it's Doom and Gloom or Chef's Knife, it has to fail. It has to not succeed and miss in some form or another. When it fails, the thing gets sad and will lower its head, which will allow you to rack up its stagger super quick. The beauty of the Tonberries is that it doesn't matter what Final Fantasy game it is. Also, these fuckers can teleport, and they will teleport behind you to literally Chef's Knife you, so they'll teleport behind you to instant kill you. Yeah, I know, but they've watched... There's Chef's Knife. So yeah, it's like they've watched Fist of the North Stars. They get the joke. But the beauty of the Tonberries in like every single Final Fantasy they appear in is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what level you are. If you're fighting against them, you have to take them seriously. And I like how they acknowledge that because of how deadly powerful the Tonberry is, when you defeat it, the goons stop immediately. The hoodlums immediately go down on their knees, like without hesitation. Like they know. It's like they just beat up a Tonberry and won.
And if we hear about you,
and so now you get the threat in them because it's like if they could beat up a Tonberry, what else can they kill?
To my boot.
Yeah, you guys scram. And those 3 specific hoodlums, I believe, are actually the same 3 that we bumped into briefly in Chapter 3. You know, near the end, where like a few tried to pull us away. And the only reason I think that, because I honestly can't remember what their faces were like in Chapter 3, the only reason I think it's the same 3 is because in Intergrade, it's absolutely those 3 you bump into when you're wandering around Sector 7. It's absolutely those same 3 designs. So maybe it was the ones, but I honestly can't remember. We'll find out when we eventually get to Intergrade, when I point it out and be like, hey, see, it's those guys again. Or if I just watch back on the footage and watch the Chapter 3 stuff. Oh, but that'd be too much. That'd be too much effort. That'd be way too easy to just, you know, load up and do.
Really?
But now we've done our thing for Kyrie. We get Johnny's wallet back, and we get that key.
Totally. From now on, I only steal from the
Fucking.
The lesson.
Talk about a weight off my shoulders.
I hope this isn't the last time we see a Kyrie. I've got a sneaking suspicion it will be, and she's just a Part 1 character in the same way that her grandmother is also a Part 1 character, I fear. But it would be nice to see some of these Part 1ers
She say grandma?
like appear in some form or fashion again. Because the only character that kinda will is Johnny, because Johnny leaves town. And that was the same in the original. He ends up in Costa del Sol. And like a few other landmarks. So we'll see Johnny again in future parts, probably. It's just there's a few other side characters I'd love to see again in future parts. And Kyrie and Morelli, or Morel, would be nice to see again. There's a part of me that thinks they won't, especially more so Morel, because if you haven't gathered already, she's the angel of the slums, so why would she leave Midgar if she's like their guardian angel? But I think they can at least bring her back in one particular part. It's a bit of a spoilers for the original, but in the original game, you eventually return to Midgar like right near the end of the journey
You're the angel?
to storm Shinra to like then do a bunch of other things. So maybe they could like expand that section when they get to it and have it so you bump into some of these old faces again, because it'd be nice, especially because by the time we're there, that will almost certainly be in what would be the last part of the remake. So we're talking like 7 or 8 years from now potentially. Being able to see these faces again, it will just be like an old return home. I say that, but I'm almost definitely going to go through the 7 Remake Part 1 again, even though I've already done like 4 playthroughs of this game. I'm almost definitely going to do another playthrough at some point, probably just before Part 2 comes out. Like when it's like the month leading up to Part 2, I'll probably go through this again, just so that I can more directly compare it and integrate to sort of see the stepping stone that it was.
That isn't the only way that Avalanche can make
And I'll only compare it to Part 1, because I don't think it'll be fair to compare it to 16, when although 16 is also an action-adventure game like this one, from what we saw from that original trailer at least, it's very much going for a different approach with its action, going for a much more tactile, technical action similar to things like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising, whilst this is a lot looser and a lot more in line to say, oh, Kingdom Hearts? Like somewhere between Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition in terms of combat. where it's a little bit more easygoing and a little bit more button mashy, but there's still things to think about and things to work on.
Don't try to stop me.
So I love this. Johnny tries to go, hush. I must go unless you tell me to stay. It's because, yeah, bye.
But if you begged me to stay, I could reconsider throwing everything away.
Good luck out there, Johnny.
Yeah, bye, Johnny. Goodbye.
Johnny, don't forget.
I like that she at least gives him a vote of confidence as well. So hopefully he'll still be himself in later parts when we bump into him. Because he is a charming character. He was one of the more enjoyable side characters of the original, and I'm really glad how they handled him. As he, like, look at how fast he runs. Look at that guy go. But there goes that discovery quest. But now we did that thing for Kyrie, we can finally open these strange doors that you might have seen around the place. There's one in the sewers, one right here as we're opening right now, and one in the expressway that we shortcutted through when we were with Aerith. There's a bunch of stuff here. The main thing you need for the side quest is that there are necklaces, well, a necklace in each one. The necklace referencing the super bosses of the original game. Because there's the circlet. The circlet's very nice. That's a huge magic boost. No, that's not what we're looking for. Also, destroy these golden boxes because they drop Moogle medals out the wazoo. And Cloud just will not. There we go. There it is, the Ruby Tiara, as a reference to the Ruby weapon, a super boss from the original game. And arguably the hardest. I know some people might argue, what is it, Emerald weapon is the one that's in the water. People might argue that one's harder. And to be honest, I kind of jump between the two. Like, when I was a kid, Ruby weapon was my kryptonite, but Emerald weapon I didn't have too much issue with. But when I got older, I started to get into a rhythm with Ruby weapon of what to do. Basically, Chocobo breeding, get Knights of the Round, fucking ruin it. But if you're not using Knights of the Round, even then, there are ways to work around it, and it's not the end of the world. It was Emerald weapon, for me, that starts to become more problematic, just because of how many little things it can do to make things awkward. Whilst Ultimate Weapon, despite its name, really isn't that hard. Ultimate Weapon has never given me much challenge. And the last one, was it the Sapphire Weapon? Or the Diamond Weapon, sorry. That you fight in the story, so that's different.
Oh, hey Barrett. Hey.
But once you've got those two, the third one is out of our reach for now because it's in the sewers, and we can't access the sewers until we advance the plot in chapter 14. So that's the only side quest that will be left before you should move on with the plot. If you've done everything, you're like, why can't I find this last door? Don't worry, it's because you can't. But if you come back here, back in like the little amusement park space for the kids play park. Weimer here will tell you that there's monsters in that underground lab that we found Wedge in. So we can now go back down in there. I mentioned before that there's an optional fight in the lab that we'll be coming back for later on. This is now, but before I do that, I now return back to the shop because of how many Moogle medals we got. So we got 20. I buy the last art books and buy the steel pincers. You can buy the enfeeblement ring if you really want to. I wouldn't recommend it. I just spend the rest on an elixir because why not? Because now we're all kitted out. Barrett gets a new weapon, so that's, you know what that means? That's a new skill for him to learn. Even if it's his first physical weapon. And I now need to talk about the physical weapons again and why I don't like them. I get it. I get the point. He had physical weapons in the original, but in the original, it worked out fine because of its turn-based nature. It just meant that he couldn't get max damage from the back row. You had to use him in the front row. In this, however, they exemplify the fact that Barrett is not a physical combat person. He's a very muscly, big guy. He can't just swing his weapons around at the lightning speed Cloud does, or swing his fists in the techniques that Tifa does. He just can't. So making him a physical attacker, his attacks are super slow and leaves him super vulnerable all the time, making him frustrating to use. But if you want that weapon skill, you have to put up with it. So for now, he's got the steel pincer, and you've just got to accept that his physical combat options are going to be extremely muted. Additionally, anytime you're in an optional dungeon environment, you can hold L1 and it will warp you back out. which is what it says in the bottom left corner. They only apply to Chapter 14, really, because, you know, Chapter 15 onwards, we're back on the main plot till the credits, so that doesn't happen. But in 14, both here and the sewers, it will come up with the option for you to just leave. You're going to see a few cuts, because you're just going to go through the dungeon backwards, but I keep at least one fight in to show how physical Barrett works, and why I don't like it. Because he's just slow. He's a chunky guy, just because of all his muscle mass and everything. And look how slow that was for it to miss. When he goes for that third swing, where he like lifts both his hands down and swing down, you cannot interrupt or cancel that in any sense of the word. You're locked in until he lands, which just makes him even more problematic. It's also around this time, I know I've mentioned it before, but it's around this time that I turned Barrett into the Magic Man. I do this on every playthrough. I tend to put all of my best magic on Barrett, because I just find it more effective to do so. I'd rather Tifa more focus on all the physical skills, and maybe have Haste at a stretch, and have Cloud have a little bit of like universal stuff, but then have Barrett have all the good stuff with magic, like cover all the bases. Because he's defensively can look after himself, so making it so he can take a more magic stance where he's not in the face of the fight, but at the same time, like, he will end up drawing the enemy's attention because magic always draws enemies fire. It just works out more often than not. In the original, I tend to not do it that way. In the original 7, I tend to spread out the magic a little bit more. It's just more so in Remake I find it that way. But in the original, there's not like battle intels and things like that, and you ultimately get more materia slots. Like I said, in this game, it's 6 for weapon, 6 for bangle by the end of the game. But obviously in the original, because it covers the full experience, there was 2 more on both, and those extra slots make the difference. And especially when you get to endgame and you get like the almighty summon materia, the almighty magic materia, the almighty technique materia, which the almighty ones, I know that's not what they're called, but the way it works, like the almighty magic is one materia that has every single spell to its strongest form on it, including Ultima, Flare, Death, Quake. Like it has all the super spells. And Grand Summon or Almighty Summon has every single summon in the game on it, including the optional super one that you get for beating the optional boss of the game. Or well, for beating Ruby Weapon, or for getting a gold chocobo and going out to the island. It gets you Leagues of Knights of the Round. But here's your optional boss, speaking of, way down here, the Type 0 Behemoth, which is going to actually tick two side quests in one. There's the side quest for actually killing it, and it's the side quest for the doctor of getting the 3 ingredients. The Behemoth holds the last ingredient. The way this fight works, because it's a Behemoth, another classic enemy of the Final Fantasy series that you have to take very seriously. Be wary using magic on it, 'cause it will respond with its own, that's far stronger. But the idea is you have to cripple the upper body and then cripple the lower body, or the other way around, to build up its stagger. So you're attacking multiple body parts. Additionally, you can break its tail to reduce some of its actions, which I eventually do, and would highly recommend doing yourself. If you're overly strong on the physical attacks, its physical attacks will counter you and be pretty devastating in its own right. However, if you use magic, kind of infamously, Behemoths have extremely powerful magic spells of their own, and they will only use them if you open the floodgate, if you use magic first. So you're going to see here, I take out the top half of its body, so now we can prioritize the bottom. And it's going to start kicking like a moron, because it can't really move, because its top half is just like no longer functional. It will recover, so don't think it's over. Like once you like get rid or weaken its body, you will have to act twice, or act several times. Additionally, you can also break the horn on the front of it. If you break the horn, I believe that stops it from being able to use magic. But don't quote me on that, because I end up not really using magic for most of this fight, just to be safe. Or if I am doing it, I'm doing it because it's stunned, so I know it physically can't counter. You see, like once the body part's broken, it's immediately got the stagger, and I turn my attention to those horns, because in other Final Fantasies, if you snap a horn, it stops its ability from using magic. So, but don't quote me on that if it works in this game. I think it does, but I don't use magic in this fight. Or I said, if I do, I only do it when I know I can get away with it, because I know it won't counter because it's stunned or locked in an animation or something like that. But now we have to turn our attention back to the body parts, because like I said, once it picked itself up, its body came back to normal. Personally, I would recommend trying to get it held in place by working on one body part and then Infinity's edging the other to just break it quick. Also, you might notice that Barrett's got the gun back on. Yeah, I maxed out the weapon skill and immediately put the Bertha back on. And it's going to stay that way until we get the next actual gun weapon and not a pincer or physical battering ram weapon. In hard mode, this fight is... I was actually kind of surprised that this fight doesn't change that much. Like, if you're concerned going into it, like, because you want all the art books, and it's like, oh god, I'm going to have to fight that Behemoth again, it's going to kick my ass. It is definitely stronger, obviously. Like, it hits a lot harder, it has more health, yada yada. But the fight itself and the strategy for dealing with it really doesn't change. The only thing I'd recommend is that you start with this thing, so you still have a lot of your magic still. Because yeah, there is an actual boss fight in the chapter, right at the very end. But that boss isn't that hard. I find this thing harder than the boss. Than the actual boss of this chapter. So I would recommend coming straight here as soon as you proper start chapter 14 and get this out of the way. Get that first ingredient, because it will become your first by doing it this way round. And then knowing that you could, once you've done, the magic you've got left is the magic you can use for things like the Tonberry, for the rest of the chapter, some of the fights, the Colosseum fight as well. Because there's a lot of fighting if you're doing all the side quests and after all the art books. Like, there's a lot of difficult-ish scraps you're going to be doing. When it's nearly dead, it will stand on its hind legs and try and make the... It won't make the whole building collapse, but it will make rocks drop everywhere to try and give it room to charge up a really powerful attack. So you're kind of at a time limit there. It's a damage check. You need to kill the thing, which thankfully I do. Get a lot of AP, so some material levels up. Oh god, did you see that? Tifa just got bonked at the last second. Yeah, the rocks will still come down as it dies, so be wary of that. And you'll notice as well, because it's still treated as the underground, it won't give us the option to head back, like, to just warp us out. It's only when we head back up, it'll be like, warp to the doctor, which I just say, you know what, screw it, I will. It's a longer walk. I can just chocobo my way back. Because we've got all the medicine stuff, and we've done the quest for Weimer. So both of them have got the do you want to warp condition right now.
Did you manage to get everything I needed?
So there's all this.
Thank you. This ought to be
We give up the horn, the flowers, and the mortar.
See why Aerith put her trust in you. Don't worry. I'll take it from
A lot of the side quests here will actually give art books for characters it ties to. So see there, like, we get a scripture book, we get another art book for Aerith, so Aerith gets extra skill points. The combat one we just did, I believe, gives it for Barrett. There's one that gives it the pull-ups we did gave it for Tifa, and the only one that we can't do right now, I think, is for Cloud. Whilst the others are more generalized ones for different, more physical rewards here, there, and everywhere. Also, we get the Wrecking Ball, which is another physical weapon, which, to be fair, has a good skill on it. The Wrecking Ball skill is very nice to have. He punches the ground and makes a shockwave. The shockwave is bigger if you have 2 ATB. So it's a good, like, let's see, you see there, Smackdown. It's a good AoE or get off me attack for Barrett. So it is worth having. It's just the whole, you have to suffer another physical weapon. And you can see, like, I'm looking at like, ugh. But we did just get 2 weapons for Barrett in a pretty short span of time. So, you know, make the most of it. Make the most of his expanding moveset. But I'm going to wrap it up here. Next time on the Final Fantasy VII Remake, we're going to get back on the main plot. We've done everything we can do right now. There's only one real side quest left for us to tackle, and we can't finish it until we get on with the main plot, so we might as well. But anyway, until then, take care now. Peace.